So the first topic today are grammar terms. That is the terminology we use when we talk about grammar. And you may ask, is good grammar really that important? English is all around. You can hear it in movies, see it online. Everybody's using it. Is this really bad English? Well, that all depends on the context. If you are talking to your friends online, it's completely okay to use the language you see on the internet. But if you're writing a job application, you don't want the Grammarzilla to come and get you and destroy the chances on your dream job just because you cannot really express yourself correctly. So in school, your teachers usually comment on the content, the language, and the structure of what you write. In this course, we'll focus on the language. In real life, there are no more teachers to tell you what is right and wrong, but you might think that good grammar is a little bit like a personal hygiene. You can ignore it if you want to, but don't be surprised if people draw their conclusions. Before we start, we need to look at the terminology. It is not fun, but every field has one. And whether you are into sports or gaming, you probably know words that perhaps your mom or your grandma doesn't really know. I would never know what AFK means if it wasn't for the Big Bang Theory, for example. So linguistics also has some terminology, and you might have heard some of these words before, and we will not go very deeply into any definitions, but you need to be able to tell what your teacher means when they comment on your texts. So we'll look at word classes first. In your book, Targets, there are named these 9 word classes. And if you find a different book or if you continue studying languages, you might find different versions of this list. That is because linguists, just as any other scientists, cannot really agree what they consider a word class and what they don't think is a word class. But today we'll look only at these 4: verbs, nouns, adjectives, and adverbs. These are often called the content words because they carry a lot of meaning. They have a lot of content in them. I'm sure you will agree that a verb tells you more about what is going on than, for example, a preposition or an article. So we'll start with verbs. And as you see in the bracket, there is always Norwegian translation of the term. You are probably familiar with these, and I'm putting them just to make a connection between what you have learned in your Norwegian classes and what you are learning now. So verbs usually describe an action. For example, ride, love, get, have, prepare, and so on. You can put to in front of a verb, and very often you can make a past tense, which often has the ending ed, and a progressive form, or gerund, which has the ing ending. We can see the past tense, and you of course notice that some verbs are irregular. For example, rode, which has an irregular past tense, or ate. But most verbs do get the ed ending. And then we have the gerund, riding, preparing, hiding, eating. When we look at nouns, we can say that nouns usually describe a person or a thing. For example, home, friend, cat, unicorn. It doesn't have to be a real thing, it's just some kind of concept. We can put a, the, or some in front of a noun, and then we get a home, the friend, the cake, and so on. Some water. You can also put nouns into plural. That is, you put the s ending on them, and you have several homes, several cats, and you can see that water doesn't have an s ending, and we'll get back to this later. Adjectives very often describe a thing, some quality about something. We have tall, small, complex, blue, and so on. Adjectives are usually placed between the article and a noun, so between the or a and a noun. We have the small girl, the blue car, a smooth talker. Most adjectives can be graded. We have tall, taller, the tallest, complex, more complex, the most complex. Adverbs can be very similar to adjectives sometimes, but the main difference is that adverbs describe an action. Adjectives describe a thing, adverbs describe an action. We have it down here: quickly, extremely, loudly, often, and so on. They often describe time, place, or manner of an action, how something happened, how often did it happen, where did it happen, and so on. For example, speaking quickly, lived happily, drives fast, behave well. Adverbs can also describe adjectives or other adverbs. Extremely smart, very sick, extremely quickly, and so on. Many adverbs can also be graded. Not all of them, but many. Often, more often, most often, fast, faster, fastest. Many adverbs end in ly, but not all of them. You can see quickly, extremely, loudly, but also often, fast, well. Those are also adverbs even though they do not end in ly. Word families. Word families are groups of words which have the same origin. Some words like to change themes. They start as, let's say, a noun and end up as an adjective, as we see in the first example. We take friend and make friendly, like a friend, behaving like a friend. We take happy, which is an adjective, and make adverb, happily, in a happy way. We take the verb decide and make decision, which is a noun, something decided. And sometimes it's really hard to tell which word class this word belongs to. We have to love and a love, to make, a make, to ride, a ride. The only difference is the context around them. We can see that the first column has to in front of them, which we have learned signalizes a verb, and the second column has a, which is an article, which means that the following thing is a noun. And there are even more complicated cases. In the first example, a sleeping child. Sleeping is an adjective, but in the child is sleeping, sleeping is a verb. We see that in the first example, it is between the article and the noun, while in the second example is the gerund progressive form. And in the last line, fast is an adjective, a fast car, between an article and a noun. Fast as an adverb, drives fast, describing an action, and fast as a noun, as not eating, holding a fast. So now we'll look at some exercises.